I'm Rebecca Mendoza with Rebecca and Company Real Estate Group. And today I'm shining my spotlight on Carol Smith, who is an insurance broker with Insurance SCV. Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Rebecca. Great to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming at this time because insurance is so important to home ownership. And being somebody who sells homes, I refer a lot of my clients to you because I know that they'll be taken care of for their insurance needs. So I'd like to talk about insurance today.
Okay, great. That's what I know.
Absolutely. Okay, so my first question to you actually is, how long have you been in the business? I just tell me a little bit about you.
Yes, well, the name of my company, as you said, is Insurance SCV. We're located in Santa Clarita on Avenue Tibbetts, and I'm an insurance broker. Been doing insurance for over 25 years. You know, for a while I was with Allstate and I was a captive agent, but now, I'm a broker.
Awesome. And what's the difference between being a broker and being an insurance agent for somebody like Allstate?
Well, when you're a broker, I feel like I've got an edge or an advantage. I represent or I have access to many, many insurance carriers that are highly rated. They're financially strong and have some good name recognition. So that allows me the flexibility to shop for price, but more importantly, coverage. And we never will send a quote out we'll never send a quote out just based on price. We got to make sure the coverage is there.
Right. And thank you for saying that, because that's really one of the things I want to focus on is obtaining insurance and why it's important to maybe speak to someone like you who's a broker who can look at different companies to get their policies. So I've been advising my buyers to look for insurance immediately upon opening escrow, because being here in Santa Clarita, I'm finding that some people are having a challenge getting it because of where the house that they're buying is located. So are there certain parts of town in the SCV that may be more difficult to get insurance?
Yes, there are. And I'm glad you said that about advising your buyers to secure their insurance right away, because they'll never know what they're going to find. It could be so expensive that they could be priced out of the home. So That's important. So yes, to answer your question about areas in Santa Clarita, if you're talking about Santa Clarita proper, I would say homes that are at the edge of town, like maybe Copper Hill, some areas like that. In Fair Oaks, where they border the Brush area.
Yeah. Because
those, even though they're in town, a lot of those buyers are having very difficult time getting insurance. And then other areas, rural areas, let's say like Acton, Agua Dulce, Val Verde, those areas, all of the homes in those areas, they can have difficulty getting insurance.
Right. And the reason I found you or I met you in the first place was way back when I bought my current home, because I moved here and I had AAA insurance and they insured me and I moved here. And then about 2 months in, they called me up and said, we're no longer insuring in your area. And it was odd to me because I didn't think I was really in I knew I was in a high fire zone. A lot of us are in Santa Clarita, no matter where you are, but I didn't know that it would be enough to kick me off of insurance. Right. And then I came to you and you found me a great policy with a great rate. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. Glad to be of service. But here's another issue. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, we can get into it in a moment, how if you can't get preferred insurance. But here's the thing too, like in your case, just exactly like in your case, you were able to get preferred insurance at a good price when you moved in. But who's to say a year later that everything changes and then they cancel you and then you're going to be stuck with very, very expensive insurance. So for people that live at the edge of town or in the high fire zones, they need to be aware from the beginning that their insurance could be high. If it's not now, it could very well be so in a year or two.
Right. And yeah, the way that California and the droughts are going, at some point we're all going to be in that boat, it seems like.
Yes, I know. One carrier of mine, I won't mention the name, they pulled out of the entire city of Santa Clarita.
Wow.
They don't understand us, I don't think. But
well, speaking of hazards like fire, because we all know that that's a concern being here in Southern California, what are some of the other hazards that might be excluded on a home insurance policy?
You mean like a hazard that may prevent you from getting insurance, or things that might prevent you from getting insurance?
Well, I think like things that are covered. So for example, I know there's a difference between like a flood and a landslide or
Mhm.
things like that, especially with, we've had fires and then there's the rains come afterwards. So
Right.
is that something that it's important? We don't have to talk about the distinction, but is that something for people to know what is and
Yes.
what's not covered?
Yes, that's true. That's very, very true. And on a homeowner's policy, the way it reads, most of the perils, we call them perils, that
Mm.
are, most of the perils are covered except for what's listed as excluded. That's
Mhm.
called like an all peril policy. And to answer your question, earthquakes never covered unless you get a separate policy. And
Mhm.
neither is flood, like outside flooding, not indoor flooding, but outside flooding is not covered. And interestingly enough, mudslide, landslide, things like that are not really covered anywhere. They're not, you can't get
Right.
insurance for that anywhere. But I know at one point there was a situation where the insurance commissioner jumped in and forced the insurance companies to pay for landslide because it was a fire that was up in the Santa Barbara fires, if
Mhm.
you remember those.
I
So
do.
yeah, they're not covered. It's not covered, but he jumped in and forced the insurance companies to cover it because he said that fire was the original cause. But for all intents and purposes, flood, landslide, mudslide, not covered, and you can't get that insurance anywhere.
Oh, okay. I understand. So what are some of the other issues that can prevent a buyer themselves from obtaining insurance?
Very good question. I would say maybe the first thing would be claims. If the buyer has had one claim or even two, or a water claim, that's a big one right now, and
Mhm.
the buyer goes to buy new insurance, and then he could have difficulty obtaining insurance, or it could be kind of high. They'll give you a surcharge. Um,
So a question about that, is
yeah.
that based on the buyer themselves personally, if they were to buy a new home, or the home itself, if there'd been a previous
Mhm.
issue with, like, say, a water claim?
Right. That's a good question also. Usually the claims follow the buyer.
Oh, okay.
They follow the person. I do have one carrier though, that if there was a claim that occurred at the house that they're purchasing, they
Mhm.
won't insure it. But for the
Got it.
most part, it follows the, excuse me, it follows the buyer or the person.
Oh,
And one thing I wanted to bring up too, that's kind of unique to our area, we have these protected oak trees that are beautiful.
yes.
If there is a buyer that buys one of those oak tree or buys one of those properties, and there's one of those huge oak trees there, that could prevent them from getting insurance. And they're really in a pickle about that too, because the city really won't, you got to fight the city in order to cut the tree back. So no insurance company likes any kind of vegetation hanging over the house or
Yeah.
around it. But with those oak trees, you don't have a lot of options as to what you can do with them.
Wow, thank you for bringing that up. That's something that I didn't know. You learn something new every day. This is why I like to surround myself with experts and professionals so that I can properly, talk to my clients about particular properties. And I didn't know that about the oak trees. I mean, I knew we had oak trees here, but I didn't know that that could be a potential issue. So thank you for sharing that.
I had two clients that I was working with on that. And I don't know, like other things too, that can be an issue when you're purchasing a house and to try to get preferred insurance if the roof is in bad condition,
Mhm.
or if it's an older roof, or some of the older homes, if they don't have updated systems like the furnace and the AC. Electrical is a big issue. And
Yeah.
I know that there are some homes in Santa Clarita that have aluminum wiring. A lot of
Hmm.
times people don't know about that, but if it comes up and the insurance company knows about it, that could be an issue as well.
Yep. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
So, a question that a lot of people ask me when I'm selling townhouses or condos that have HOAs that have an insurance policy, they always ask me, why do I need to have insurance when my HOA has a policy for the building? What's your answer for that?
Well, number one, they don't cover you for liability if somebody comes into your place and they slip and fall and you get sued. They're
Hmm.
not going to cover your belongings if there's a fire or a theft. So those are two big things right there. But condo insurance is pretty much misunderstood. True, the HOA policy covers the outside, but to varying degrees. Most of the time I find they do not cover the inside at all.
Mm,
Sometimes they cover a little bit, and in very few cases they cover all of it. So you need to go to your HOA and find out to what degree they cover the inside, because chances are you're going to have to cover the inside of your dwelling as well.
right.
Yes.
And I know that that can be a missing for some people, because if you don't work with the right real estate agent who lets you know that your interior items will not be covered by the HOA's insurance, and it's not required for the homeowner to have inside insurance. They just when you close escrow, they want to make sure that the building is in things inside of it. And so if you don't know that you need to have your items insured and something should happen, that could be disastrous for you. So it's really important to understand these things. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. And also too, more and more lenders are looking into it. They're getting wise to it.
Right.
And they are requiring insurance because they know that the interior structure is not covered as well.
Right. That's correct.
Yes.
So thanks for answering those questions. Is there anything else that you think it's important that people know?
Well, I would just say that in Santa Clarita, if there's a buyer and they're going to purchase a home in Santa Clarita, they don't have to worry. Mostly they're going to be able to get preferred insurance. But if you are at the edge of town or in the rural areas, you got to really think twice, really, because the insurance could be difficult to obtain and pricey.
Absolutely. And that is why, again, we'll circle back and say, I've been advising my buyers to look into insurance immediately upon opening escrow while we're doing those investigation period, so that they are comfortable with the insurance that they can get and at the price they can get it for. And so I highly recommend people call you and get that taken care of as soon as possible. So that said, if people need to or would like to get in touch with you or have more questions, how can we contact you?
Well, you can go to insurancescv.com. That's kind of easy to remember, or Carol at insurancescv.com. And my phone number, 661-803-3803.
Awesome. Well, Carol, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate this information. And for sure, as things come up and change in the insurance world, I know you'll be back to tell us about that so my clients can keep informed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca.